Now, also note that none of the military CBMs have been touched,
Yeah.
confidence building measures. So, example, there is this agreement on non-attack against the nuclear facilities of each other. There is an agreement of incidents at sea between the naval
Yeah.
ships of the two countries. There is an agreement on, Air Force planes of the two sides flying close to the border. There are some rules and regulations. So there, an agreement on advance intimation regarding test of ballistic missiles, etc., etc. So there are these agreements. None of them has been touched.
Welcome to Strat News Global. I am Surya Gangadharan. My guest is Sharat Sabharwal, former Indian High Commissioner to Pakistan, and we are going to talk about, obviously, Pakistan. Now, there are some reports about in the Pakistani media about the measures India has taken, and referring to the decision by the CCS yesterday to suspend the Indus Waters Treaty. I thought I would begin with that, Ambassador. It seems like a slap on the wrist, isn't it? Because what do we do with the excess waters? There's no infrastructure to stop the water flow.
Yeah, there are various angles to this decision. As you rightly said, this treaty was almost in a limbo for the last few years because of India's demand to revise it, to amend it, to which Pakistan hadn't responded. And again, the meetings of Indus commissioners had taken place in an intermittent manner, not regularly as per the treaty. Now the decision to keep it in abeyance, as the term that the government has used, or suspend it, for Pakistan, we must remember that psychologically, it's a bit of a shock, at
Mhm.
people's level, and I'm sure even at the government level. As lower riparian, this treaty is very dear to them. A treaty which continued to work even through the two wars in 1965-71 is suddenly not functional. Now that psychologically is a blow to them, but the impact on the ground at the moment would at best be limited. Let me explain it to you. There are two ways we can impact it. One is to withhold Pakistan's share of water under the treaty, or as much water as we want now, once the treaty is no longer operational, and then divert it for our own use to the plains and so on. There is no infrastructure we have built.
Yeah.
And all these rivers, especially the Indus River, is in the high reaches of Himalayas. Building that infrastructure would be a technically challenging job, not impossible, but very costly, time consuming. We haven't done that. We haven't built any storage. So at best, the impact on the ground, because gravity will continue to take the river's water towards Pakistan.
Yeah.
That's one. The other way India can impact is to impact the timing of flows. Now, this has been a big worry for Pakistan. That India overall continues to let the water flow, but reduces quantities of water flowing to Pakistan during the crop sowing season. So that has been one of their worries. Now, even there, our capacity, depending upon the reservoirs that have been made with the hydroelectric projects that have come up, maybe we have acquired a limited capacity to do so. But we'll acquire a bigger capacity only if when all the hydroelectric projects planned by India or which can be built by India come up. So on the ground, this would be a problem. There are, of course, legal angles. Pakistan will try and raise those angles. The fact is that in the face of India's resistance, it doesn't have any effective remedies. It will, of course, try and go to various forums. It may also try to raise the matter in the international forums. After all, Pakistan, water is a very precious resource. We'll
Yeah.
have to see what the reaction of other lower riparian countries all over the world. Because, there are other countries in a similar situation. So how do they
True.
react to this too? And our diplomacy will have to manage that. So all these are the details of a move which on the face of it is a very very powerful move. one sense, in the public mind, it's seen as a very decisive step, which it is, because we hadn't done it even during the wars. But we'll have to see what impact it has on the ground.
But tell me, what could be the government thinking behind this? Is it to deliver a psychological blow to the Pakistanis? Is there some other long-term thing they have in mind?
Look, as I said, at the moment, it's a game of coercion. The relationship is in a complete impasse, and both countries are dependent on deterrence and coercion. So
Yeah,
who gains the upper hand in that game? And I think it's part of that strategy to tighten the screws a little more on Pakistan, and at least tell them that we'll not adhere to this treaty until this also means, which is something which I didn't mention earlier. Either to all hydroelectric projects that we had to build, we had to give designs to Pakistan 6 months before commencement of the river works.
yeah,
Now we have to do that. We build our projects freely, which also will cause uncertainty in their minds. But strategists at the government level, when they work on the other side, also they won't go by an immediate shock. They'll
yeah.
also calculate what are the possibilities, what can be done by India, in which way, and how much it impacts them. And that's where I said, I believe our capacity to deliver on this front immediately on the ground is very
Yeah.
limited. But we'll see what our Ministry of Water Resources of the government does in the coming days on that front.
Assuming we go ahead full scale with building run of the river or hydel projects on these rivers, how could Pakistan react? You've mentioned the various diplomatic things they could do, but Foreign Affairs Advisor Sartaj Aziz was telling the Senate yesterday that it's like a declaration of war. Pakistan could even go to war.
Yeah.
Is that something?
Yeah, that is a 2016 report. Sartaji is no longer. It's Hagdar, as you know, who is the
Yeah,
foreign minister. That's an old report. When also I think India had been talking of what water and blood cannot flow together, etc.,
yeah.
etc. And there were hints that we may abrogate this treaty at that stage. So at that time, he had said that Pakistan will treat it as an act of war. As you know, Pakistan's National Security Committee, which has top civilian and military functionaries, is meeting right now. So we'll see what reaction they give, and I'm sure they will not take it lying down. They'll deliver some threats and so on with which we have to live. On to your question, what can they do? I mean, they will continue to say that this treaty cannot be put in abeyance or abrogated unilaterally. There is no such provision in the treaty.
Yeah.
So they'll try and take this issue to, the court of arbitration, etc. But as I said, in the face of India's resistance, there is not much that they can achieve. After all, this arbitration on Ratle and Kishanganga projects,
Yeah.
where Pakistan had raised some points, and we were saying they should go to the neutral expert, one of the mechanisms under the treaty. Pakistan said they should go to the court of arbitration. There was an impasse. The World Bank tried to resolve that matter. When it couldn't be resolved, then World Bank set up both mechanisms, and India has boycotted the court of arbitration and has gone before the neutral expert. Now, it was a strange move by the World Bank because, two contradictory findings can
Yeah.
come from the Court of Arbitration. But the point I was making was that in the face of India's resistance and brazen it out, there is not much that Pakistan can achieve. But what they will do is they'll try and raise it in whichever forum they can. They try and go to the dispute resolution mechanism, the World Bank, whatever. They'll try and raise it in the international fora at the UN, etc., and try and get support of some other lower riparians. That's what they can do, and that's something which our diplomacy will have to manage. The only other point I may say that in doing this, in using, trying to use water as an instrument of coercion against Pakistan, we may also have ended up setting an example for our own upper riparian, which is China.
Hmm.
I think we should keep that in mind. So all these issues are there, and we'll have to see how things pan out in the coming days.
I mean, one could say that China has already done many things at the Brahmaputra, including building a dam or a series of dams, and they are not restrained by any treaty or anything with us.
Yeah, yeah, there is no treaty. There is no treaty between us and them. There has been some kind of bilateral arrangement. They've been providing us data on water flows, flood data, etc., etc. As you know, there were worries after 2020, and there were reports that they were building a very large dam
Yeah,
to divert the water on their side. So, um, I mean, they haven't really, stopped water in a big way
yeah,
from coming to India. But these rivers, whether it's Brahmaputra on this side or some of the western rivers, they come from their side,
yeah,
and we have to have some worries about the behavior of our own upper riparian. I'm not saying China may react more. After all, there are overall dynamics of the relationship, and things have looked up a bit recently. But what I'm saying is that it's also, I mean, this is something, an example you have set of using water as an instrument of coercion,
yeah.
and somebody else can quote it to you. That's I'm just flagging the point.
Yeah. Another point I'd like to raise the issue of shutting Atari, no more visas for Pakistani nationals, a ban on trade. None of these things were in any way happening, isn't it? Atari, they had that little circus going on, which thank God they've stopped. But otherwise, there's been no back and forth.
Yeah, let me briefly touch, these measures. One is the Tari integrated check post to be shut.
Yeah.
Now, there was no trade except for Afghan transit trade. There was
I
no
see.
bilateral trade because Pakistan had suspended it after our withdrawal of special status of Jammu and Kashmir in 2019. They suspended all bilateral trade.
Yeah.
But Afghan exports have been coming to us through the Atari Wagah check post. And we don't know what the decision of the government on that is. These are early days. So
Yeah.
maybe they will take some decision. The people it impacts is those who were given visa to travel by land. You are given a visa, an Indian visa, then a Pakistani is allowed either to travel by land through Atari post or by air, come to an Indian airport. There are some designated airports, etc. To my mind, in shutting down Atari, you have stopped people traveling by road to India, travelers coming. But to my mind, it hasn't stopped people coming by air. Visas given to Pakistanis.
Yeah.
Can they come by air to the designated airports, etc.? And there is nothing in this order, which was issued yesterday, which says that visas are being stopped across the board. All that they have said is that SARC visa is
Yeah.
being stopped. Now, SARC visa, as you know, is for dignitaries, top functionaries, and some other categories in all SARC countries. At some stage, it was thought that among SARC countries, people-to-people movement, etc., should be facilitated, and that's when this visa was introduced. That visa we have suspended. So that's another measure we have taken. Then, of course, we military advisors in Pakistan mission, military, naval, air advisor are being expelled. We are withdrawing our own advisors from Islamabad. The strength of the mission is going down from 55 to 30. I must say all these measures are symbolic measures, other
Yeah.
than the Indus Waters Treaty move, which is of some consequence, and which, as I said, we'll have to see how it pans out. What way India can, further increase pressure on Pakistan through that route. But the others are all symbolic measures. Now, also note that none of the military CBMs have been touched,
Yeah. Mhm.
confidence building measures. So, example, there is this agreement on non-attack against the nuclear facilities of each other. There is an agreement of incidents at sea between the naval
Yeah.
ships of the two countries. There's an agreement on, Air Force planes of the two sides flying close to the border. There are some rules and regulations. So there, an agreement on advance intimation regarding test of ballistic missiles, etc., etc. So there are these agreements. None of them has been touched.
Mm.
The hotline between the DGMOs, Director General of Military Operations, has not been touched. It's not included in this order. The point I was making was that this is not some kind of a scorched earth policy that our
Yeah.
government has.
Yeah.
That we burn everything down now with this country, and everything is gone. It's a carefully considered package where most of the things, as I said, are symbolic.
Mhm.
But one Indus Waters Treaty is a
Mhm.
matter of substance. Yes.
You think symbolic works with those generals in Islamabad?
No, no. For example, to tell you, 2019, I had said this. When we withdrew MFN status from Pakistan after Pulwama, which we had given in 1996.
Yeah.
It had stayed for a long time. We had been telling Pakistan that, you should not link trade to political issues and so on. But then we reversed our own advice and we withdrew MFN status,
Yeah.
linked trade to political issues. And we increased duty on Pakistani exports by 200%. And I had pointed
Mm.
out at that time that Pakistan's exports to India, out of a trade of about 2.5 billion overall trade at that time, Pakistan's exports to India were only 300 to 400 million dollars,
Mhm.
which at that time were about 2.5% of their overall exports, global exports.
Yeah.
So I had said that while it may hurt some individual businessmen, it's not going to make any difference to the security establishment.
Yeah.
Symbolic move, no. SARC visa is gone, is gone. Number of people goes down. Except I may say that their military advisor in India has been an ISI man.
I see.
And this is the functionary who in the past has been known to, try and build contacts and, run some networks, etc. I don't know how far they were doing it now. The restrictions have increased. But that's the one angle which is there, which we must take note.
Last question, sir, which we don't seem to be asking. The fact that these terrorists could walk in and, we've seen this before over many, many years. But again, the question being asked in the streets of Srinagar is when you have so many troops out there, why is it that these guys got through and were able to do what they did?
First, I must say that the best security system cannot prevent the enemy from slipping through your lines at times. So,
Yeah,
this is an expectation which is unrealistic. When we say why were our security forces not able to prevent each and every attack by terrorists from Pakistan?
yeah,
Even though we have a heavy presence of troops, but you cannot cover every inch, etc.
yeah,
That's one angle we must note. So, we can't be very exacting when asking these questions. But in this case, I agree with you. Look, there were telltale signs that Pakistan was may try to ramp up terror against us. Terror never
yeah,
stopped. In the past also, whenever terror has gone down, it's like turning down a tap from their side. The tap is turned down a bit for tactical reasons, their own reasons, internal
yeah,
problems, the Western frontier, but the water is there, terror is there. Terror never stopped. Sporadic attacks have continued to take place, as you might have seen.
mm,
There were telltale signs that they may ratchet up
yeah,
their terror against us. For example, they have been blaming us for their own failures in Balochistan, saying India is responsible, etc.,
yeah,
etc. And hinting that we can also do something, which they hinted in a big way after the Jafar Express attack in Balochistan, when they said something to the effect that we'll take action not against these terrorists in Balochistan, but also against their sponsors, etc., whether in Pakistan or outside, etc., etc. Then you heard their general, Asim Munir, the army
yeah,
chief, talk of Kashmir as a jugular vein. He was
yeah,
upping the ante, telling us that, if you think you can do this, we can do that, etc., etc. And you might have also noticed that there was increased infiltration activity
Yeah.
recent months, and there was, if I remember correctly, heavy firing exchange across the line of control in February and April. So all this would have told us that they may up the ante, they may try and ratchet up terror. So why we were not able to prevent this attack remains a question. Now, preventing the attack itself, I agree that it's not always possible to prevent every
Yeah.
attack. But questions like why didn't we have any intelligence regarding the presence of Pakistani terrorists in that area where large number of tourists used to go.
Yeah.
Also, I think based on media reports, a question arises, to which I'm sure an inquiry would find an answer. Why there was no security person from our side on the spot, where there were
Yeah.
hundreds of tourists who could have engaged the terrorists and engaged in them, at least could have reduced the number of casualties, etc., etc.
Yeah.
These questions will linger, but I believe the first task of the day is to now somehow respond. The government has taken some steps there, etc., etc. But I think this would be an equally important, aspect to do, an inquiry about all this, and take whatever remedial steps are necessary to ensure that even if an attack takes place, it's not like complete absence of any information regarding their
Yeah.
presence or complete countering from the side of Indian security forces, and that too at a very, very crowded spot, crowded with tourists. But I'm sure
Could this
down the
be the?
line, we'll go over
Yeah.
these issues. Hmm.
Do you expect more attacks going forward?
Yes, I wouldn't be sanguine that we have seen the last of it. At the moment, as I said, the dependence of two countries in managing this relationship, diplomacy has taken a complete backseat. And
Yeah.
whatever
True.
was left of it has been diluted further. So, that's one aspect. We are dependent totally on a security approach,
True.
uh, characterized by deterrence and coercion. Now,
Yeah.
Pakistanis have always regarded state-sponsored terrorism as an instrument of coercion, and they haven't changed their view. They never changed their view. They were under pressure from FATF, etc. So we saw a relative lull in their activity,
Yeah.
over the last few years. But they had not changed their mind. They had not given up on these instrumentalities, Lashkar-e-Toiba, Jaish-e-Mohammed, etc., etc. And they never stopped terror attacks as such. Sporadic attacks on a smaller scale, as I said, continued to take place
Yeah.
all along, all along. Now, this time, I think for their own reasons, maybe they think they need to build some counter pressure. They believe this is their perception, wrong. That India has been involved, etc., etc. This is what they have been claiming. So they believe to build some pressure, or to pay India back in the same coin, whatever the reasons may be. As I said, there have been telltale signs that they may ratchet it up. Now they may lie low for some time. A crisis has developed. I'm not saying you would see an attack tomorrow. There are encounters taking place. There's one taking place in Udhampur, I think, which took
Yeah.
place
Right now.
when they came across terrorists who are already in the Indian territory. That kind of thing can continue happen. And if things quieten down a little bit, they may try again. So we haven't seen the last of it, and we should be prepared. We should continue to strengthen our counter-terrorism grid, and especially, as I said, we should go over some of the issues which each attack throws up. And I'm sure the agencies and our government will do that.
Sir, thank you. Great talking to you and good perspective. Let's see what
Thank
the Pakis come up with. I guess it will not be long before we see something more on the end. Thanks
you.
very
Yes.
much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. Bye-bye.
That's all we have for you on this edition of The Gist. Do subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on social media. Thank you very much.